So there comes a time in every young girl's life when she finally becomes a woman. Yeah, unfortunately for me, I didn't realize how fast we become women. Yeah, I realized that at a New Year's Eve party. I had just got done singing my favorite karaoke jam, Party in the USA, by Miley Cyrus, of course, and the countdown to 2017 was about to start. 5, 4, 3, 2, oh! Oh! I guess my body had its own New Year's resolution to ruin my life. That's right, not only did I welcome the new year with confetti poppers and fireworks, but my menstruation cycle had just started. And as a scared 12-year-old, I had no idea what was going on. Years later, when I tell this story to many of my close girlfriends, I realized how not alone I was in that situation. Many young girls don't know what to do once they get their first period. I mean, heck, I was barely taught how to use menstrual hygiene products until the 7th grade. And when I tried to bring it up as casual dinner conversation to my mom, both of my older brothers would be like, "Can you not?" Because we've stigmatized menstruation cycles and made it a shameful thing for women to talk about when we can't control it. And I can only imagine what today's girls are going through with legislation being passed to not even say the word period in classrooms. That's right, on top of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, Florida recently passed the Don't Say Period bill. Honestly, at this point, I think Florida's just trying to go for a record of how many don't says they can do. But for so long, we have viewed periods as something gross and unladylike to talk about when it's the most ladylike thing we do. So today, let's first look at the negative history of period stigmatization, next how it's affecting today's women, before finally putting an end to this long period of stigma. According to the National Health Services, most girls get their period when they're around 12 years old, but can start as early as 8. So it's important to talk to your girls from a young age to make sure that they're prepared. But from a young age, we also make girls feel ashamed and afraid of their period compared to boys who are very much taught you show yours, I'll show mine kind of situation. Girls are conditioned with the don't ask, don't tell mindset about sexual reproduction and womanhood in general. But have you ever heard some of the whack beliefs history thought about menstruation cycles? Aristotle, one of the great Greek philosophers and influencers on our Western society, literally referred to women as mutilated men who were monsters deviating from the genetic human type. And then what does the Bible say about menstruation? Well, their version of code red is found within Leviticus 15:19 through 30. That stated, a woman was clinically unclean for 7 days while she was on her period. And anyone who touched a woman on their period was also unclean until nightfall. During women's periods, they were excused from their household chores and stressful tasks because it was believed that they would taint anything they touched. Then, in the 1920s and 30s, doctors believed women elaborated something called menotoxin, and we could wilt flowers just by walking past them. I'm not joking, an American doctor literally thought this at one point. Don't you think if we had this secret menotoxin and could be laying waste to the crops and spoiling the milk, don't you think we would have used these ex-women powers to get the vote sooner? I know I would have used mine to make sure Margot Robbie got an Oscar nomination. And this is exactly what happens when we don't discuss what is happening to our bodies. How do we break these myths? Because you don't need to be a doctor to say periods aren't toxic. So now that we've gotten the super weird historical beliefs of menstruation out of the way, let's talk about how it's affecting today's women. I mentioned earlier how Florida recently passed the Don't Say Period bill. This bill proposed banning any form of sex education, including menstrual hygiene education, until the 12th grade, and would prohibit students asking questions about menstruation, including their own first periods. Which, frequently occur, before 12th grade. Call me crazy, but I think menstrual hygiene education should start before menstruation begins. Thankfully, there are some women speaking up for this menstruation mediocrity. Recently, there's been a TikTok page that is taking the internet by storm, which is called Roe v. Bros, where comedian and host Tiffany Siegel takes to the streets of New York City just to show how NYC bros just aren't in the know about periods. Siegel explained she didn't start this page as a way to berate men, but as a way to shed a spotlight on how men just really don't know that much about women's bodies, yet they make up half of the voting population and are the vast majority of the political spectrum who are making decisions on women's body autonomy. Now, don't get me wrong. When I first saw this page, I was shocked by some of the answers. Like when a man is asked, how many tampons does the average woman use on her 4 to 8 day period? And he responded saying, we use this many. I'll give you a hint. We use a lot more than this many. So now let's finally put an end to this long period of stigma. We need to address the stigmatization around menstruation in order to understand and fix the challenges people risk gaining access to menstrual hygiene education and equality. First, we need to be educating boys. Girls and guys need reliable information about periods, so it's important we talk to men about it too. Guys, at one point or another in your life, you'll have a friend, a sister, a girlfriend, or just a girl in your life who's hurting from cramps, feeling bloated, or suffering with the numerous side effects that we get with having our period. And instead of making it something that they can't discuss with you, make yourself someone they can. Thankfully, there are some men of menstruation allies out there, like Chance Ward, who took to social media with his experience. He explained while one day working out at the gym with his girlfriend, he overheard his girlfriend being asked if she had a tampon on her. And without hesitation, Ward pulled one out from his fanny pack. Ward's actions are just a way on how men can look at periods with compassion and empathy, and not shame women for their natural bodily functions. Or in Chance's words, never feeling embarrassed for being human. Second, we need to normalize this language. Throughout my whole speech, I've used phrases such as code red, time of the month, but there's also ones known as Shark Week, the Crimson Tide, Ant Flow. The list goes on, but they all mean the same thing. Menstruation. However, by using these euphemisms, we may be covering up the natural aspects of being a woman. Instead, we should be using the more honest and authentic vocabulary like menstruation, ovulation, and bleeding. By shifting away from these euphemisms and more towards this honest language, we can help normalize menstruation for those who go through menstruation and those who don't. So even though I'm not always happy about getting my period each month, I'm glad I'm confident enough in myself to speak out about menstruation. Today, we first looked at the negative history of period stigmatization, how it's affecting today's women, and finally put an end to this long period of stigma. We can move forward as a society with less shame and less stigma. Period. Literally.